The top stories tonight in Y News. The Philippines' unemployment rate declined its lowest since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic.
The first presidential debate on the Commission on Elections, which is set tomorrow, will take spotlight in the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and the economy.
President Rodrigo Duterte will keep Filipino soldiers out of the raging war between Russia and Ukraine, even if the conflict spills over to Asia.
NASA's massive new rocket began its first journey to a launch pad ahead of the blast off to the moon.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Friday, March 18, 2022. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am Harleen Delgado.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news. Despite stricter quarantine restrictions placed in January of this year, more Filipinos have found work as the country continues to reel from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Based on the preliminary results of the January 2022 Labor Force Survey, the Philippine Statistics Authority announced that the unemployment rate in the country has slightly gone down to 6.4%, or 2.93 million Filipinos last January. This is slightly lower than December last year with 6.6% and in January 2021 with 8.8%.
Kung titingnan natin dyan ay wala siyang malaking epekto. Ang malaking nagkaroon ng effect ay doon sa labor force participation rate. So ibig sabihin, mayroon ding impact yung restriction natin. At ito yung nakikita naman natin since last year na talagang pag stricter yung ibang mga gustong maghanap ng trabaho ay nagkakaroon sila ng hurdles.
Meanwhile, the highest unemployment rate was recorded in Central Visayas, while Cagayan Valley posted the lowest. Compared to the fourth quarter of 2021, the service sector got the largest increase in the total employment, particularly the subsectors of transportation and storage, manufacturing, administrative and support service activities, and construction, while the sectors of agriculture and forestry recorded the largest drop in employment. Other sectors that posted a decrease in employment include wholesale and retail trade, fishing and aquaculture, human health and social activities, and real estate activities.
So marami yung nawalan ng trabaho dito sa agriculture and forestry. Kumpara naman nung Oktubre 2021. Ang nakikita namin dito kasi itong agriculture natin may seasonality, mababa talaga yung output natin bawat first quarter at mataas naman yung fourth quarter. So this is basically the effect of seasonality.
The PSA says the January 2022 unemployment rate is the lowest since April 2020. Meanwhile, the underemployment rate in January also decreased to 14.9%, or 6.40 million Filipinos, compared to the 16.1% rate in October 2021. The palace welcomes the development. In a statement, acting presidential spokesperson Secretary Martin Adanar attributed the drop to the recalibration of pandemic strategies, including the shift to alert level system. With the further easing of alert levels in the country, Adanar says economic managers estimate 170,000 less unemployed workers in the next 3 months. For now, the palace says the government continues to provide targeted relief for the transport and agriculture sectors and unconditional cash transfers to poor families amid price hikes.
Meanwhile, the Department of Health, or DOH, is monitoring the Omicron BA.2.2 sublineage as this is currently causing a new surge of cases in Hong Kong and in the United Kingdom. However, the DOH believes that the Philippines will likely experience another surge when the new variant enters. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
The Omicron subvariants BA.1 and BA.2 stealth Omicron caused the surge in the Philippines' COVID-19 cases last January. However, the health department has yet to detect the Deltacron or the recombinant of the Delta and Omicron COVID-19 variants. The Omicron BA.2.2 sublineage detected and causing resurgence of COVID-19 cases in Hong Kong is also not yet present in the country. The Department of Health Technical Advisory Group member Dr. Edsel Salvañas said BA.2.2 may not cause a huge spike in the country.
Even if makapasok yan dito, chances are hindi na yan magdudulot ng kasing laking spike dahil meron na tayong exposure dito. So important to stay vigilant, pero more or less BA.2 pa rin to.
Salvaña added a distinct mutation of Omicron close to BA.2.2 was also found in the country during the Omicron surge.
Yung sa atin kasi dito, may distinct mutations din. Sa atin is BA.2.3. So magkakalapit lang talaga ang genetic provenance niyan. So we actually expect na kung meron na tayong tinatawag na hybrid immunity, that's when you have vaccination and then you get mild breakthrough infection, protective yan against BA.2.2.
The DOH is strictly monitoring the country's borders to prevent the entry of Delta Cron, BA.2.2 detected in Hong Kong, and combination of BA.1 and BA.2 already detected in Israel. Health experts also explained that COVID-19 vaccination played a huge role to cut COVID-19 transmission and prevent hospitalization among Filipinos during the recent surge.
Dahil ang laki ng portfolio natin ng vaccines, baka nakatulong nga ito sa umakyat ng mabilis yung BA.2 tapos biglang bumagsak, which is not the case in many other countries.
The DOH reports the government has reached 97% of the target in the 4th national vaccination drive.
Asahan po ninyo na hindi pa rin titigil ang ating gobyerno at ang kagawaran ng kalusugan na abutin ang lahat ng mga Pilipinong hindi pa nakakatanggap ng bakuna. Nang sa gayon, sila'y mabakunahan at maging protektado laban sa COVID-19. Napaka-importante pong makatanggap tayo lahat ng booster shots ng ating mga dapat, especially for our lolo at lola, pati na rin po dun sa ating mga kababayang may comorbidities o may karamdaman.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The number of foreign tourists that visited the Philippines has breached the 100,000 mark since the government further eased restrictions in February. Citing data generated from the One Health Pass, the Department of Tourism said visitor arrivals to the Philippines have reached 102,031 as of March 16. The department considers this as a high note for the country since the closure of the borders at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. The DOT said tourists from the United States of America remained the top contributor to the total foreign tourist arrivals to the Philippines since its reopening of borders on February 10 until March 16. According to Puyat, the various measures imposed, such as the suspension of the country classification system and relaxed entry protocols for fully vaccinated leisure travelers from visa-free countries, have helped facilitate the influx of tourists visiting the country.
The number of overseas Filipino workers who benefited from the government's repatriation program since the start of the pandemic reached 1.7 million, according to the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration. Eileen Cerudo reports.
2 years since the COVID-19 pandemic, the national government has repatriated 1.7 million overseas Filipino workers. According to the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, or OWA, around 20 billion pesos was allotted for the repatriation program.
We have brought home, yan, kapit a total. Ito yung lahat, hindi lang yung mga napauwi natin sa probinsya, no? Lahat, 1.7 million na OFWs tayo natulungan na repatriate itong panahon ng pandemya.
Arnel Ignacio, Deputy Administrator for Administration and Fund Management of OWA, said there are 1,704 OFWs left in quarantine hotels. The official adds the agency is spending less since the pandemic situation gradually improves with lower COVID-19 cases and high vaccination coverage. Ignacio also assures that there is enough budget to provide assistance to OFWs who lost their jobs. These includes OFWs who were repatriated from Ukraine.
Sa Ukraine, nakapag-repatriate na tayo ng mga about 652 na mga OFWs natin, including the seafarers, at tayo ng cash assistance sa kanila. Lalo na itong mga seafarers, kung ano na lang yung nakuhang gamit, yun na lang yung kanilang baon-baon sa pag-uwi.
Meanwhile, the official explains there is only a slight delay in the 1.7 billion peso payment to hotel owners and transportation sectors who were a part of the repatriation program. OWA says they continue to coordinate with hotel owners regarding the payment.
I'd like to assure them that in spite of the delays, imposible hindi kayo mababayaran. Kasi alam mo naman, yung Yusek, Rocky, hindi naman hawak hindi naman hawak ng OWA ang pondo. Lahat ng gagaling ng Department of Budget and Management.
Eileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
President Rodrigo Duterte will keep Filipino soldiers out of the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. This amid the president's approval to open Philippine facilities to the U.S. if the conflict spills over to Asia. Rosalie Cons explains why.
President Rodrigo Duterte reiterated his position that the Philippines maintains neutral on the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia. And if the war escalates and the United States of America asks for help, President Duterte says he will never send Filipino soldiers as long as he is the chief executive.
Dili ko mukumit og ako nga Amerikano ni amang re. Ingon ko nga padaan ako akong sundalo. Dili man nato ng away pag spill over mukatay ka na unya abtor lang girang re na lisod na di ako pa president dili ko masugot basig usa ka sundalo.
Earlier, Ambassador to the U.S. Jose Manuel Romualdez claimed that President Duterte had indicated his approval to accommodate American troops at former military bases in Clark and in Subic in case of an emergency situation. The president has repeatedly said Russian President Vladimir Putin is his personal friend. According to the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration or OWA, more than 600 Filipinos have been repatriated from Ukraine.
So far, sa Ukraine, nakapag-repatriate na tayo ng mga about 652 na mga OFWs natin, including the seafarers.
They were provided with cash assistance, especially the Filipino seafarers. Currently, the Department of Foreign Affairs has directed a mandatory repatriation of Filipinos from Ukraine because of worsening situation in the country. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Bayan Muna party list calls on the government to approve the petition to increase the minimum wage of workers in the National Capital Region. JP Duñez reports why.
The group Bayan Muna conducted a palengke challenge at the Commonwealth Market in Quezon City to prove how far can a 537 peso budget can go. The group explains they want to prove to the government that the current minimum wage in the National Capital Region is not enough for the daily needs of a family with 4 members. This is due to the domino effect driven by the oil price hike, which also made prices of basic commodities to increase.
Itong ginanap namin ay para makita ng gobyerno kung ano yung mararating, ano yung mabibili mo doon sa 537 na minimum wage sa loob ng isang araw. Na kung saan ito ay hindi nakakasapat.
With the 537 peso budget, the group were only able to buy 2 kilos of rice, meat, sugar, oil, and eggs, which they estimate to last only for a single-day meal of a family. Bayan Muna calls on the government for immediate increase of minimum wage up to 750 pesos to suffice the basic needs of ordinary workers.
Kung pagbabatayan natin yung pangangailangan ng isang pamilya, kaltasin mo pa yung bayad sa bahay ng per day, kuryente at tubig, ay kulang na kulang ang 537 na minimum wage ng ating mga manggagawa. Ang panawagan namin sa Bayan Muna ay gawing 750 ang minimum wage ng mga manggagawa at tanggalin ang VAT sa ating presyo sa langis na kung saan ito ang may dahilan kung bakit ang taas ng mga bilihin dahil sa pagtaas ng presyo ng krudo.
Meanwhile, other citizens echoes the same sentiment. They explains that the minimum wage is insufficient for their other expenses such as house rent, electric, and water bill.
Kulang na kulang talaga sa pamasahe pa lang. Pag bumili ka na ngayon ng baboy, magkano ang baboy? Sa 500 mo. Halos hindi ka na makakabili ng mga ibang mga sangkap. Pamasahe pa.
Ay siyempre, ang gusto namin ay tumas ang sahod gawa ng lahat naman na nataas ang mga bilihin. Kaya kinukulang-kulang na kami sa kinukulang na mga konsumo ng gastusin ang mga anak ko at bababa ang sahod.
Trade Union Congress of the Philippines previously filed a petition to increase minimum wage up to 1,007 pesos. The Department of Labor and Employment already said they will let the wage board decide on the matter. But as of now, no decision has been made. JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The first presidential debate of the Commission on Elections, or Comelec, titled Pilipinas Debates, will kick off tomorrow, March 19. The Comelec disclosed that the topics on the debate will center on the economy and the COVID-19 pandemic. Dante Amento reports.
Commission on Elections spokesperson Director James Jimenez explains the COVID-19 pandemic and the Philippine economy are the biggest concerns the country is currently facing. Due to the health crisis, problems arise which ultimately affect the country's economy. Thus, the first round of Comelec organized debates tomorrow will tackle these issues.
You're looking at a continuing problem in the pandemic, and the economy is a good frame with which to discuss the pandemic because of its effect on the economy. No, hindi lang health issue kasi ang pandemya, kundi economic rin. So, yun yung magandang issues na pag-usapan.
The candidates are expected to lay down their plans or programs in government to address all issues surrounding the current pandemic. A maximum of 20 questions will be asked during the debate. All 10 presidential bets are provided with podiums, though Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has already disclosed he will not participate in the event.
Yung expectation natin, hindi po siguro ito yung dapat makikita natin, dapat mag-aawayan sila, magsisigawan, hindi po yon. Minsan po sa isang debate, mas maganda ang pinagtatalunan ay yung critically ang pinagtatalunan nila ay yung issue.
Meanwhile, the poll body urges the public to monitor the debate in different media platforms. It will be aired nationwide through different media partners including UNTV and also worldwide through digital broadcast or social media platforms. The event will be the right avenue to witness the candidates side by side as they deliver their positions on each issue.
Abangan niyo po itong darating na mga debate. Ito po yung pagkakataon binibigay sa atin ng Commission on Elections upang mas makilala natin ang ating mga kandidato. Malaman natin ang kanilang mga plataforma, yung mga nasa isip nila, ano bang plano nila sa bansa, lalong-lalo na sa dalawang malaking issues na hinaharap ng ating bansa na tatalakayin nila by tomorrow.
The Comelec debates are the last debates prior to the May 9, 2022 elections. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Presidential candidate Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. vowed to continue pursuing programs and reforms designed to uplift the quality of life of the Filipino teachers. Nelma Ribohok reports.
Presidential candidate Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos will push for his advocacy when he was a senator. If he win in the 2022 presidential race, the former senator vowed to increase the salaries of teachers. He believes that this would inspire the teachers to provide the highest quality of service and teaching to their students. He added that the government should provide necessary support to teachers because they are the ones who were molding young students to become better and responsible adults. Aside from the increase in salaries, Marcos also promised to provide free training and scholarship to their children. When he was still a senator, Marcos pushed for a higher salary for teachers under the proposed Public School Teacher Salary Upgrading Act. The bill did not prosper, prompting him to file another bill also seeking higher salary for teachers. Meanwhile, his running mate Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio is in Cebu for the inauguration of their headquarters in the municipality of Liloan. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, we serve the people, we give glory to God.
Former officials of the Department of Education have expressed support for the tandem of Vice President Leni Robredo and Senator Francis Pangilinan. Harleen Delgado will tell us why.
6 former secretaries and officials, staff, and teachers of the Department of Education have endorsed the candidacies of presidential candidate and Vice President Leni Robredo and her running mate Senator Francis Pangilinan. In a statement, the former officials say they believe that Robredo and Pangilinan both bring solid experience and grounded understanding of the education sector, its challenges, and what needs to be done. They also described the two as sincere, genuine, and competent leaders, adding that a vote for them is a vote for quality education for all Filipino learners. Meanwhile, the Leni-Kiko tandem ended their 4-day visit in various parts of Central Mindanao, Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, and the Zamboanga Peninsula. Before flying back to Manila, Robredo attended a multi-sectoral People's Assembly in Pagadian City in Zamboanga del Sur, where she was introduced on stage by medical frontliners. There, Robredo emphasized the programs that her office extended to the province. She also noted that despite her loss in the province 6 years ago, she set aside politics and helped the province in various ways, including the supply of PPE sets to frontliners.
Bakit natin nakaya na agad-agad nakapadala sila? Dahil tayo po laging may sense of urgency. Noong nagkakaproblema na po sa Wuhan, yung pandemya, pinaghandaan na natin. Alam natin na posibleng pumasok dito sa atin, so ang ating pong opisina nagpreposition na kaagad ng mga kailangan.
In the 2016 vice presidential race, Robredo lost to Bongbong Marcos in Zamboanga del Sur by over 45,000 votes. But the rallying cry by Robredo's Zamboangueño supporters, they will deliver in the 2022 polls. Robredo will be attending the Comelec presidential debates in Pasay City tomorrow. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God. The Department of Education is now allowing physical sports activities both in public and private schools, but venues for contact sports will remain closed. Alan Malansala will tell us why live. Yes, Alan, good evening.
Good evening, Harleen. Education Secretary Leonor Briones clarified that sports activities in schools are now allowed, but not all. During a media conference in Bicol today, she said some sports activities are allowed as schools shift into a progressive expansion, where many schools are now conducting face-to-face classes. However, Secretary Briones emphasized that necessary precautions must still be practiced. Here is her statement earlier today.
There are types of sports and competitions which you can carry on as long as you impose the appropriate precautions which are required.
Arlene, the education chief also emphasized that close contact or close distance sports in schools will still not be allowed. These include boxing and judo and alike. The venue of sports activities must be considered. That means the venue must be wide or big enough for physical distancing and an open space as much as possible. Secretary Briones pointed out that health and safety protocols must be observed as we are still battling for COVID-19. Harleen.
Thank you, Alan Manansala, reporting live from Camarines Sur.
The Philippine National Police will not conduct a loyalty check among police officers amid the calls for a revolutionary government. Leah Ilagan reports why.
The Philippine National Police dismisses retired Lieutenant General Antonio Parlades' call for a revolutionary government. PNP spokesperson Police Colonel Jean Fajardo says they did not monitor any issues or sympathy among their personnel with regards to Parlade's proposal.
Hindi po tayo makikinahok sa anumang panawagan ng pag-create po o pag-call po ng paglalagay o pag-establish po ng revolutionary government. Yung pinigay po na statement po ni General Parlade ay nare-respeto po natin kung ano ba po yung kanyang sariling opinion at kung ano ba po yung gusto niyang mangyari, particular dito po sa ating political environment ay sa kanya po yun.
Colonel Fajardo adds the PNP is loyal to the Constitution and to the chain of command.
On the part of the PNP, we will always respect and observe the chain of command. Meron po tayong umiiral po ang mga constitutional bodies po natin. Ika nga, we will respect the duly constituted authorities at doon po lagi susunod ang PNP.
On Tuesday, Parlade went to the People Power Monument to express his grievances on alleged corruption in the Comelec and to call for a revolutionary government. Under revolutionary government, the Constitution will be abolished and the power will be in the President alone. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, as Russian invasion enters its fourth week, emergency supplies continue to rush in Ukraine with more people needing food and medicine. Meanwhile, rescue operations continue searching for survivors in a bombed Mariupol theater, sheltering hundreds. Nerissa Dando reports the details live. Nerissa?
Good evening, Kath. More than a day after the airstrike, there were no reports of death from the bombed theater in Mariupol as Ukrainian military continues their rescue efforts. Ukrainian officials said that some people had gotten out of the theater to withstand strikes. But videos and photos provided by Ukrainian military showed that the theater had been reduced to a roofless shell with some exterior walls collapsed. There were also conflicting reports on whether anyone had emerged from the rubble with communications disrupted across the port city of Mariupol. Movement has been also difficult there due to the shelling and fighting that emergency supplies are difficult to get in. Matthew Saltmarsh, a spokesman from UNHCR, said that relief supplies are waiting to go on when the security situation allows humanitarian assistance to reach the hardest hit parts of the country, including the port city. Elsewhere, emergency supplies continue to ramp up by road and by air to bring much-needed relief supplies to civilians affected by the fighting as well as the millions of refugees. Aid supplies including food, blankets, solar lamps, mattresses, jerry cans, plastic sheeting, and warm clothing continue to arrive in a massive warehouse just outside Rzeszów, a humanitarian aid hub in southeastern Poland near Ukrainian border. The UN Refugee Agency has received over 300 million lots of donations from the private sector. 22 trucks carrying relief supplies has managed to deliver to Ukraine, and 10 more emergency trucks are set to go to Lviv city west of Ukraine. Meanwhile, an official from Red Cross said that so far 400 tons of aid has been sent into eastern Ukraine. Kath?
Thank you, Nerissa Dando, reporting live. Despite the rise of the daily COVID-19 cases, the Italian government plans to phase out the current COVID-19 restrictions starting May 1st. Health certificates such as proof of vaccination or recent recovery from COVID-19 that are needed to access various services such as restaurants, gyms, and public transport would no longer be necessary. Due to vaccination rate of almost 84%, which has saved around 80,000 lives in 2021, Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi is confident in removing these restrictions, but that might be applied again as necessary. Italy is one of the first Western countries to be badly hit with the deadly virus, which has recorded more than 157,000 deaths and 8th highest tally in the world. A large-scale survey in Australia is being conducted to blood samples for COVID-19 antibodies. Mavian Dog details why live.
Thousands of blood samples will be routinely examined for coronavirus antibodies. This surveillance program will help determine both the extent of the spread of the virus across the community and the percentage of the population who have some levels of immunity. The investigators will examine blood samples by age, sex, and location for spike antibodies produced by both natural infection and vaccination. According to Professor Christine McCartney, Director of the National Center for Immunization Research and Surveillance, or NCIRS, this project will also give a better snapshot of the undetected virus circulating in the community. Moreover, according to the experts, these surveys will help health authorities plan for rising cases of Omicron's BA.2 subvariant, vaccination rollout, and managing hospital capacity. Meanwhile, the first survey results collected 6 weeks after the Omicron peak are expected to be released within a week. Kath?
Maeve, are there any expectations to the results of the first survey?
Yes, Kath. Health experts are expecting the results to show very high infections of undiagnosed Omicron cases. It could be 5 or 10 times what was reported during the initial wave. Back to you, Kath.
Thank you, Maeve Dog, reporting live from Australia. Preparing for its near-month-long mission on the moon, NASA's mega-moon rocket, the Artemis 1, is being rolled out to the Kennedy Space Center in Florida before its launch. Ryuji Sasaki will give us the details live. Ryuji?
Kath, the rollout of the moon-bound rocket began on Thursday, carried on the Crawler Transporter 2 with a top speed of 1 mile per hour. NASA says that the rocket transportation would take up 11 hours, reaching the launch pad by Friday morning. The Artemis 1 is a 322-foot stack and is built off of NASA's Space Launch System rocket, which is capped by the Orion spacecraft. Nearing its launch, NASA's Orion program manager, Howard Hu, detailed the significance of gathering performance capability information, which will be analyzed for the next Artemis 2 launch that will carry on crew in the future. Prior to its launch, a wet dress rehearsal will be conducted on the 1st of April. This process completes all the preparations needed for launch without launching the rocket, which includes loading 700,000 gallons of cryogenic propellants onto the rocket. The mission is set to last for 26 days while in space. The Orion spacecraft will launch an SLS rocket headed for the moon and a further 1,000 miles, more than any spacecraft. In over 50 years since the Apollo 17 in 1972, the Artemis 1 becomes the first rocket headed to the moon. Kath?
Ryuji, what is expected from the outcome of this mission for NASA's future prospects?
Yes, Kath. After Artemis 1, NASA is planning to send a crew on Artemis 2 for a flyby of the moon, while Artemis 3 will carry astronauts to the moon's surface. This largely depends on the outcome of Artemis 1's mission. However, many are confident that this will be successful as the Space Launch System is claimed to be the most powerful rocket in the world. Back to you, Kath.
Thank you, Ryuji Sasaki, for that live report. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I'm Kat Dumaraos, live from Bangkok, Thailand. Good evening.
The Department of Transportation unveils the first train set for the PNR Clark operation. But while the DOTr continuously construct the initial phase of the railway, the agency inks the agreement for the procurement of more trains. Asher Kadapan Jr. details why.
The Philippine National Railways, or PNR Clark Phase 1 project, currently has an overall completion rate of 54%. While its construction progresses, the Department of Transportation prepares for the actual start of operation.
Partial operability nito, 2023, mga middle ng 2023. In other words, handa na kayong asahan at pakinabangan itong proyektong ito.
Today, the DOTr unveiled to the public the first of 13 train sets ordered from Japan. With 8 train cars in every set, this is the longest commuter train set in the country. Aside from this milestone, the agency signs the contract for an additional 304 train cars or 38 8-car train sets for the massive North-South Commuter Railway or NSCR system.
Mahalaga ho yan. Kasi makakatulong sa decongestion. Sa pangalawa, mapaparami yung mga sasakay. Pangatlo, ano mas gusto mo, sir? Magbabiyahe ka ng 1-2 oras, makapunta ka sa Clark, o makabiyahe ka ng 35 minutes to 40 minutes. Ito ho kahalagaan yan. Kaya nga, sa kahalagaan ng proyektong ito, dapat hindi humantala yung implementasyon.
The DOTr, however, reassures that the PNR Clark project will continue and be completed even in the next administration. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And before we close, we will leave you with a word, giving glory to God. From the book of Psalms, chapter 100, verse 5, it says, "For the Lord is good, his mercy is everlasting, and his truth endureth to all generations." And those are the reasons behind the news, March 18, 2022. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Herlene Delgado.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.